Okay, in this first video, we're going to introduce what it means to solve an algebraic equation. Let's start with this little bit of a warm-up here. Solve these simple arithmetic problems. What number goes in the box? Go ahead and pause the video for a minute while you figure out what numbers those are. All right, moving on. Hopefully those weren't too difficult for you. So let's start out with the question of what are equations? Well, an equation is a mathematical statement, sometimes called a number sentence, that says two quantities or expressions are equal to each other. And here are some examples. On the left side we have good old-fashioned arithmetic equations, and on the right side are some examples of algebraic equations. The difference with an algebraic equation is that they use variables, letters of the alphabet that could stand for unknown numbers or numbers that can change depending on the situation in the story or the question we're trying to answer. They're called variables because they can vary, they can change. So the idea of an equation is kind of like it's a balance. And it's kind of an old picture here, but it still shows the point. Equations are like a balance, and the left side and the right side must always be equal to each other. Just as a reminder, as we're going through this, algebraic expressions use two sets of symbols. We have numbers that are called constants, because numbers never change, they're always the same, and the letters are called variables. I just mentioned that. Also, there are various ways to write multiplication. There are 4 different ways shown there, and then there are 4 different ways to show division. Typically, what's common in algebra is this third way here, which makes division look like a fraction. This is the preferred way to actually show division in algebra, although any one of these can be multiplication, the notation for multiplication in algebra. So it's important to get used to all of those types of ways. All right. First part of doing equations is checking a solution. So how do you know if a number actually works? Well, since variables can represent really any value, it's important to know that if values you are given actually work with the equation that you have. We call this checking a solution. All right, and here's how it works. So what we need to do is we call it substitute, the variable with each value, and then follow the order of operations to evaluate the left and right sides of the equation. Sometimes we only have to do one side. Sometimes we have to do both. Kind of depends on the situation we're given. But what we do is we evaluate, which means find the value of the left side and find the value of the right side and see if we get the same answer. If we get a true statement, like 5 equals 5, for example, then we know the value we're given is a solution. However, if we get a false statement, like 5 on the left side and 7 on the right side, well, then we know that the number we were given is not a solution. We get 2 different numbers, and obviously 5 can't equal 7. All right, so let's start with this first example. Is y equals negative 5 a solution for negative 3y minus 9 equals 6? All right, don't be afraid of negatives. Algebra is full of negatives and fractions and all sorts of stuff like that. So I just start out right away with the negative numbers, and because they're there. We got to get used to them. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to substitute in that negative 5 in for y. We want to know if y is equal to negative 5, do we get a true statement? Okay, so we substitute in negative 5, and we can rewrite our equation like this. And we put a question mark there to see, well, is that truly equal to 6? Okay, let's evaluate the left and right sides according to the order of operations. Okay, on the left side, we get 15 minus 9. Is that still equal to 6? Well, if you know 15 minus 9, you know that certainly it is equal to 6. And we have proven that negative 5 is indeed a solution to the equation of negative 3y minus 9 equals 6. Let's try another number. Is positive 5, is y equals positive 5 a solution for the same equation? Well, let's do the exact same steps. Put in positive 5, ask the question, evaluate. Negative 15 minus 9 Does that work? Not this time. Oh, because we get negative 24 and 6. Those are definitely not equal to each other, so therefore positive 5 is not a solution to this equation. In fact, for this equation, there is only one answer, and that is the negative 5 from the previous slide. All right, let's try this one. Here we have a left side and a right side that both have the variable on it. Let's try it with negative 21. Is x equal to negative 21 for this? Let's go ahead and substitute it in. We're going to evaluate the left and the right sides. On the left side, we get a 28. On the right side, we get 14 plus negative 42. Well, we got to keep going. Okay, let's compare the two sides. Oh, indeed, we get negative 28 for both sides. So, negative 21 is a solution to this equation. All right, how about positive 23 for the same equation? Does it work? Let's try it. Put in 23 for x. Evaluate. All right. Compare. No, they are not equal. So 23 is not a solution to this equation. Right. And that is checking the solutions to equations. In the next video, we'll look at solving equations.